Good morning, students. Now coming to the second half of lecture on cardiac output, we are talking on cardiac output. In our previous lecture, we discuss up to the factors which determine the cardiac output. Okay, so what we discuss in our previous lecture, that is a definition of cardiac output, then terminologies related to the cardiac output, cardiac reserve, then also we studied variations in cardiac output, so physiological variations, then pathological variations. Then we also studied the how much blood is distributed to the different organs, that is a distribution of the cardiac output at resting stage. Then we are talking about, also we studied the factors affecting on cardiac output or the factors regulating cardiac output. In that factors, we in our previous lecture we studied venous return, force of contraction, heart rate, arterial blood pressure, and peripheral resistance, how these factors affect on cardiac output. Today, in today's lecture, we are going little bit in detail about the venous return, because as a major factor we discuss, but in case there is a question on venous return, you have to describe these factors in detail. Okay, so in our previous lecture we studied venous return, force of contraction, then heart rate, then peripheral resistance that affects on the cardiac output. Today we'll continue with what are the factors they affecting on the venous return, because try to understand venous return is one of the major factor which regulate the cardiac output. But how the venous return is it get affected by some other factors, and these are, for example, the first factor is metabolism. Okay, so effect of the metabolism of venous return. So in our previous lecture we also discuss how metabolism it affects on the cardiac output. Here also under venous return we'll see. So here, any increase in metabolism. Now try to remember, in our previous lecture I told that the metabolism, rate of metabolism is a basic determinant of cardiac output. Any increase in metabolic rate, that leads into the increase in cardiac output. So how that also we studied. Here we'll continue. So here, increase in metabolism, increase in metabolic rate, for example during exercise, it causes the release of metabolic end products, and that metabolic end products, it causes the decrease in total peripheral resistance, and there is increase in venous return. Okay, so what is venous return? It is sum of all local blood flow to the tissue. Local blood flow is controlled according to the metabolic need of the body. Okay, and the rate of metabolism, that is any increase in rate of metabolism, it causes the release of metabolic end products that decreases the total peripheral resistance, increases the total blood flow, local blood flow, and it leads into the increase in venous return. So in this way, the how the rate of metabolism it affects on the venous return, increase in rate of metabolism, basal rate of basal metabolic rate, it leads into the increase in venous return. Okay, this is the first factor. Second factor, student, so what is the effect of right atrial pressure? Okay, right atrial pressure, or the venous pressure, the pressure in the veins, in the different segment. Okay, it also affects on the venous return. If the venous प्रेशर ज़्यादा रहा तो वेनस रिटर्न थोड़ा कम हो जाता है. एंड पर्टिकुलरली द प्रेशर इन द राइट एट्रियम, normally this pressure, what is the pressure in the right atrium? The right atrial pressure is normally, it is 3 to 5 millimeter of the mercury is when atria contracts, and when atria relax, it is about the zero millimeter of mercury, systolic and diastolic. This is a normal pressure. So any increase in right atrial pressure causes, what is right atrial pressure? It is a back pressure on systemic circulation. Okay, so it is a back pressure means it decreases venous return. Okay, so increase in right atrial pressure, there is decrease in venous return. Okay, this is the relation between right atrial pressure and venous return. Increase right atrial pressure, decrease venous return. So whatever the cause which leads into the increase in right atrial pressure, for example, if there is a uh, pulmonary circulation, congestion in pulmonary circulation, there is increase in pressure, if there is a back pressure or whatever the cause, increase in right atrial pressure, it leads into the decrease in venous return. So see, for example, when all circulatory reflexes are blocked, okay, so what are the circulatory reflexes? Sympathetic reflex, baroreceptor reflex, the vasoconstriction, vasodilation. Okay, so if you block that, the venous return, it decreases to the zero when right atrial pressure, it increases to 7 millimeter of mercury. Okay, so try to understand, students, here uh, what is the relation of the venous return? Venous return, it becomes zero in case the right atrial pressure, it increase up to the 7 millimeter of the mercury. Normally it cannot go above the 5 millimeter of mercury. Okay, so this is a what, how it affects on the venous return. Okay, right atrial pressure in turn, it depends on the ability of the heart to pump out blood from right atrium into the राइट वेंट्रिकल. ओके, सो अगर हार्ट ने अच्छे से पंप किया ब्लड, ओके, फ्रॉम राइट एट्रियम, तो राइट एट्रियल प्रेशर ये मेंटेन रहता है. सो इवन increase in blood volume also it affects on the right atrial pressure, and there is increase in right atrial pressure. So here remember, increased right atrial pressure is very dangerous, and if it is increased up to the 7, then it increases, it decreases venous return to the zero. Okay, here in this bracket you can see the increased right atrial pressure to the 7 millimeter of the mercury. This 7 millimeter mercury is the same pressure that is called the mean circulatory filling pressure. Okay, so MSFP. Okay, mean MSFP means mean circulatory filling pressure, and we'll go there, we'll discuss later on what is it, but it is 7 millimeter of mercury. Okay, regarding this right atrial pressure, see this slide, in this diagram you can easily understand. So here this side indicates, this axis it indicates the right atrial pressure, and vertical axis it indicates the venous return. So effect of right atrial pressure on venous return. Okay, so right atrial pressure, if we consider a zero, that time the venous return is 5 liter, normal 5 liter venous return is there. Okay, and if right atrial pressure is decreased below, then there is no effect, because venous return, it increase or it is maintained, plateau is there, so there is no that much problem. But if the right atrial pressure is any increase to the positive side, and if it is increased, then there is a decrease in venous return. Okay, and yeah, for example, if the right atrial pressure is increased up to the 7 millimeter of the mercury, okay, then venous return it decreases to the zero. So heart cannot accept the blood, there is no return of the blood, and the venous return it becomes zero. Okay, that is a 7 millimeter mercury, and it is the same pressure that is called the mean systemic filling pressure. Mean systemic filling pressure will go there. So this is the in this diagram, this is called the normal venous return curve. This diagram is called the normal venous return curve. It is very important, and you draw in case there is a question on the describe factors affecting on venous return. Okay, we'll continue. So this is the third factor which affects on the venous return. And what is this third factor? You are already familiar. It is a respiratory pump. Okay, so our respiration, it increases venous return. So how it increases? Increase in respiratory pump, increase in venous return. Mechanism is very simple. Respiratory pump is the activity that helps to return the blood to heart during the inspiration. When you inspire the air, okay, the thoracic cavity expands, okay, and during the inspiration, due to the expansion of the thoracic cavity during the inspiration, the thoracic pressure in the that is that intrathoracic pressure, it becomes negative. Okay, it becomes more negative, and if the intrathoracic pressure it becomes more negative, it sucks more and more blood. Okay, so more and more blood is sucked in this cavity, that is towards the vena cava, and that blood is returned to the right atrium. In this way, any increase in respiratory pump, it leads into the, or it contributes, it helps to return more blood towards the heart. That is called the increase in venous return. Okay, so for example, during exercise, what happens is during exercise there is increase in ventilation. You know, ventilation बढ़ जाता है, rate of respiration बढ़ जाता है. And how it helps? The respiratory pump is more stronger, it is more helpful during the severe muscular exercise. In severe muscular exercise में ये बहुत ज़्यादा help करता है to return the venous return, to return the blood to the heart. Okay. Now students, it is a fourth factor that affects on venous return is muscle pump. So muscle pump, what is a muscle pump? Simply, it is a muscular contraction, the contractions of the muscle. And you know, in the veins, if you see the venous system, there are the valves. Valves are there, and that prevent the backflow. Okay, so during the muscular activity, muscle pump is the muscular activity that helps to return the blood to the heart. Okay, and during the muscular activity, veins get compressed or squeezed. Okay, so whenever you are doing the muscular activity, there is a contraction of the vein, there is a contraction of the vessels, and the blood is pumped towards the heart. Okay, and the backflow, it is prevented by the valves present in the vessels. Due to the valves in the veins, blood moves towards the heart only, and in this way, the venous return is increased. Okay, so increase in respiratory pump, there is increase in venous return. Okay, so fifth factor is gravity, that is a gravitational force on the body. That is gravitational force reduce the venous return due to the venous pulling of blood in standing posture. So in the standing posture, if the person is in standing posture, the blood is pulled towards the lower extremity, and that is called the venous pulling. And that venous pulling, it decreases venous return. So the gravitational force, it reduces the venous return. This is what the effect of gravitational force on venous return. Okay. Now the next slides, students, mean circulatory filling pressure. So what is a mean circulatory filling pressure? Students, here, when you try to understand, when the blood flow is stopped in the circulation. So imagine that this experiment we can do in animals, and you stop the blood circulation, or it can happen in some patients like in ventricular fibrillation, heart attack. When the blood circulation is stopped, the pressure everywhere in the circulation, it becomes minimum and it is equal in all segments of the CVS. Try to understand, if the blood flow is stopped, if the heart is not working, so what will happen? You measure the blood pressure anywhere in the every segment, it becomes equal, and that is about 7 millimeter of the mercury, and that is called the mean circulatory filling pressure. Okay, you know, I want to remind you that the blood pressure, the mean blood pressure in aorta or the large arteries, it is 100. Then if you go ahead in large arteries, it slowly decreases. In up to the arterioles, it comes to up to the 40 to 30 millimeter of the mercury. If you go to the venous side, then it is the venous end of the capillary, it is about 10 millimeter of the mercury, and from the that venous end of the capillary to the vena cava, it decreases slowly and it comes to the zero. But if you stop the circulation, then everywhere it will become 7 millimeter of the mercury. That is called the mean circulatory filling pressure. Now you understood mean circulatory filling pressure kya hai. Okay, so it is a capacity of the circulatory system. Okay, and it is a, you know, due to the elastic recoil of the vessel, the some pressure acts on the blood, and it is 7 millimeter of the mercury. Now imagine, if there is an increase in mean circulatory filling pressure, then what is its effect on the venous return? So any increase in mean circulatory filling pressure, it leads into the increase in tightness of the vessel, and that leads into the increase in venous return. Reverse will happen if there is a decrease in mean circulatory filling pressure. Decrease in mean circulatory filling pressure, decrease in filling of the vessel, that is the tightness of the vessel, and there is decrease in venous return. So this is how this affect on the venous return. Okay, now next slide, students. So very important, we are coming to the limits of heart to achieve the cardiac output. In our previous lecture, I told that the reserve, cardiac reserve is, or the capacity of the heart to pump the blood into the circulation is about 20 to 35 liter per minute, and that is called the cardiac reserve. Okay, so this we have to discuss under the heading. Up to the previous slide, we discussed the factors affecting on the cardiac output, including the factors affecting on venous return. But under this slide, how the heart it achieves the maximum cardiac output, that is a cardiac reserve. So see the mechanism. Okay, see one by one. Suppose imagine that common man's heart can pump the blood up to the 20 liters, and the trained person heart, sports person's heart, it can pump the blood 30 to 35 liters per minute. How it is achieved? Okay, so heart has a limit to pump maximum amount of the blood. So whatever the reserve is there, but there is a limit. Okay, and how heart achieve this limit? The first mechanism, that how the heart increases cardiac output, the first mechanism, it is called the by Frank Starling's law. So heart achieve this limit first by first mechanism, that is Frank Starling's law. And here you know the Frank Starling's law, that there is a maximum contraction if the initial length of the muscle is more. That means simply if you stretch the muscle, then it contracts more. Okay, so here normal heart without nervous stimulation can pump about 13 liter blood per minute into the circulation by Frank Starling's law. Okay, and here we can say that Frank Starling's law can achieve maximum cardiac output, that is up to the 13 liter if you stop all other reflexes, that is a sympathetic stimulation, Then during exercise, adrenaline release in the body and that stimulate the heart. So you stop, you just don't consider all these reflexes. Only consider the Frank-Starling's law. And the Frank-Starling's law, what is the Frank-Starling's law? It is a accumulation of the blood into the heart, and there is a stretching of the wall of the heart. And if the stretching of the wall, that there is increase in force of the contraction, same stretching also stimulate the pacemaker, and that increase the heart rate. And in this way, by increasing the force of contraction and the heart rate, heart cardiac output can goes up to the 13 liter. Okay, this is the first mechanism. Second mechanism, it contributes the hyper effective heart. uh, what is a hyper effective heart? So two factors are there. First, when you are doing the exercise, and or you are doing the severe exercise, strenuous exercise, or emergency is there, then what is the role of nervous excitation? Okay, here when you start the exercise, there is a massive stimulation of the nervous system, that is a sympathetic nervous system. Here, due to the sympathetic stimulation and at the same time parasympathetic inhibition, it increases cardiac output by, how it increases cardiac output? One is increasing heart rate maximum as much as 180 to 200 minutes per uh, beats per minute. That is due to the sympathetic stimulation to the heart. Okay, then increasing force of contraction as much as twice the normal. That means heart contract vigorously and as much as twice the normal. So due to the nervous stimulation to the heart, there is depending on the severity, heart rate can be increased up to this level, 180 to 200, and the force of contraction can be twice the normal. And if you contributed this, that is the cardiac output, it increases up to the 25 liters per minute. 25 means previous, by Frank Starling's law, it goes up to the 13 liters. And if we add this factor, that is the nervous stimulation, then additional increase. Okay, so additional increase means about 11 liters additional. That means 13 plus, we can say that 12, additional 12 liters. 13 plus 12, it can becomes up to the 25 liters. It can go up to the 25 liters if the nervous stimulation is there. Okay, now in addition to that, next factor that helps to increase the cardiac output, it is increase in cardiac output caused by hypertrophy of the heart. And this effect you can see in athletic person, trained person. It is not that much in common man में इतना नहीं रहता, लेकिन स्पोर्ट्स पर्सन का हार्ट ज्यादा ब्लड पंप करता है. कैसे पंप करता है? बिकॉज ऑफ द ट्रेनिंग, their heart it becomes hypertrophied. Hypertrophy means there is increase the number of cardiac fibers, the mass of the heart it increases. Okay, and that's why heart contracts more vigorously. Means there is ultimately there is increase in stroke volume. एक stroke में heart बहुत ज़्यादा blood pump करता है, and that helps to increase the blood pressure. So we can say that due to the regular heavy exercise, there is increase in mass of the heart, like the skeletal muscle, increase the contractile strength of the heart, and that is called the hypertrophy of the heart. For example, it happens in hearts of the marathon runners. Okay, if we combine both effects, that is we take the sympathetic, the nervous stimulation, and the hypertrophy of the heart, and also the Frank Starling's law, if we take all together, nervous excitation, Frank Starling's law, hypertrophy of the heart, at the end, the maximum capacity of the heart that can pump, it is a capacity of the heart that can pump blood into the circulation. It is 30 to 35 liters per minute. So see the effect, see the how much blood can be pumped by the human heart into the circulation. And if the person is trained athletic person, heart can pump maximum 30 to 35 liters of blood per minute to the circulation. And it is a requirement of the body to fulfill the requirement of oxygen and nutrients during the exercise, because there is increase in metabolic rate, metabolism increase hota hai. Okay, so this is how we discuss up to this point. We discuss how heart it achieves the maximum limit. Okay, now coming to the point, that is hypoeffective heart. Okay, so hypereffective heart we discuss while how the heart achieves the maximum limit. Here sometimes heart it becomes weak, and that is called the hypoeffective. So what is the effect of this hypoeffective heart on cardiac output? So cardiac output it decreases. So these are the some conditions or the examples during which cardiac output it increases. So factors that make the heart weak, for example, inhibition of nervous excitation of the heart. Pathology of the heart causes abnormal rhythm and rate. Valvular heart diseases like regurgitation and stenosis of valves. Hypertension, it acts like the afterload. If increased blood pressure high raha, to heart is working against the high blood pressure, and that also leads into the decrease in cardiac output. Congenital heart diseases, some myopathy of the heart, that decreases the capacity of the heart, make the heart more weaker. Then myocarditis, also it decreases the capacity of the heart to pump the blood into circulation, and in this way the cardiac output it decreases. Okay, so this is all about how the what are the conditions during which cardiac output it decreases. Okay, now students, last part of this topic, that is how the cardiac output is measured, because there is a long question, and long question is always added with the short note or the added note on methods which determine the cardiac output. So these are the method. हमें मालूम है कि cardiac output 5 to 6 लीटर है, तो ये कैसे measure किया है? Okay, how it is measured, how it is determined. So there are the two methods of measurement, that is the direct methods and indirect method. Direct method can be used in the animals because here the surgery is required. So direct method used in animals to measure the cardiac outputs. In this method, how it is measured? Very simple. The cannula can be inserted into the aorta of the animals and to the pulmonary artery or to the great veins. Simply insert the cannula to the aorta or pulmonary artery or to the great vein. Okay, and then after that connect it to the this flow meters, that is a electromagnetic or ultrasonic flow meter, and measure the cardiac output. So here the cannula is connected to the electromagnetic flow meter or ultrasonic flow meter, and the cardiac output is measured. So this is the direct method. Now indirect method of determination of the cardiac output. So in indirect method, it is used in the human, and cardiac output is measured by indirect method that do not require the surgery. Okay, so we require some data, and from that we can calculate the cardiac output per minute. So what are these methods? For example, first method is a fixed principle method. Okay, and how this method it works? So what is the principle of this method? This method is used to determine the cardiac output, and it has a principle, the fixed principle. It is very simple. Try to understand. Here in this method, what we have to do? Blood flow can be determined by a substance. Blood flow, हमें blood flow measure करना है. Okay, so blood flow can be determined by a substance either removed from or added into the blood by an organ per unit time when it is or when it flows through it. Okay, so again you listen. The blood flow can be determined by a substance either removed or added by particular organ into the blood per unit time, and in this way per unit time and when it flows through it. So from the, suppose we can take the many examples. For example, the lungs. So lungs क्या करते हैं? Lungs क्या करते हैं? It absorb oxygen and it adds the carbon dioxide into the blood. Okay, so कितना ऑक्सीजन एब्सॉर्ब किया and कितना कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड ऐड किया ब्लड में per unit time. If we got that values, if you measure it, we can calculate the cardiac output. Okay, so from the arteriovenous difference of that substance across the organ. ओके सपोज हमने ऑक्सीजन और कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड का लेवल देखा और सिर्फ ऑक्सीजन का लेवल देखा. सो आर्टेरियल ब्लड में कितना ऑक्सीजन है और वेनस ब्लड में कितना ऑक्सीजन है, एंड फ्रॉम दैट डिफरेंस we can calculate the cardiac output. Now coming to the point, we'll take one example. Cardiac output is equal to the amount of substance removed or added per minute divided by arteriovenous difference of that substance across the organ. ये फॉर्मूला याद रखो. सो व्हाट इज इट? सपोज एक ऑर्गन है, वो एक सब्सटेंस ब्लड में ऐड करता है और रिमूव करता है, जैसे किडनी कुछ सब्सटेंसेस रिमूव करते हैं. ओके तो अगर ये इट इज अदर एडेड और इट इज अदर रिमूव्ड पर मिनट डिवाइडेड बाय arteriovenous difference of that particular substance. Okay, now this is the principle how fixed this method of fixed principle it works. Okay, now we'll take one example. The fixed principle of oxygen, that is called the oxygen fixed principle. How the oxygen fixed principle it works, and the organ is lung. Okay, we'll take the lung. Now what data we have to collect? Very simple, very simple. The arterial blood is obtained because we have to take the arterial, we have to take the samples and we have to collect the data. So in this fixed principle, oxygen fixed principle, collect the arterial blood. The arterial blood is obtained by arterial puncture and its oxygen content is determined. So just measure the oxygen level in arterial blood. Okay, then mixed venous blood is obtained by a catheter inserted via antecubital vein into the right atrium. Okay, and O2 content is determined. So we have to measure the oxygen level in veins and arterial side and venous side. Okay, then next step, the rate of oxygen absorption by lung is measured from the respiratory ear by oxygen meter. So how much oxygen is absorbed by the lung, we can measure. So we know how much oxygen is there in the atmosphere and measure the oxygen, the air which is expired by the lung. Okay, so from the respiratory system. So दोनों में क्या difference आता है, and if you know all the values, okay, so the for example 200 ml of the oxygen, एक डेटा मैं बताता हूँ, this data is collected. So 200 ml of oxygen absorbed from the lungs into the pulmonary blood. Okay, कितना? 200 ml will go there. How it is measured? Blood entering in the right heart has the oxygen level. Right heart में जो हमने बोला कि right atrium में कितना oxygen level, it is 160 ml. Then blood leaving the left heart, that is from the that is oxygen in arterial side, oxygen in venous side, oxygen is arterial side, it is 200 ml per minute. And from this data, each liter of blood passing through the lungs absorb 40 ml of blood. So here we can say that when the the blood it goes to the lung, तो उसमें कितना ऑक्सीजन है? 160 ml. And the blood is coming to the left side of the heart और arterial side, उसमें कितना ऑक्सीजन है? 200 ml. तो how much oxygen is absorbed by the lung? That is 40 ml. Okay, so in this way we collected this data and just put this figure the in equation. We have the equation, we'll go there. Before to that, you just try to understand uh, how this Fick's principle it works from this diagram. So in this diagram, you know, this is the lungs, then this is the right side of the heart, left side of the heart, and so cardiac output is it is calculated. Okay, now see, we collected blood from the venous side. Okay, and we got there the oxygen is 160 ml, okay, per liter. Then we got the blood sample from the arterial side, and there the oxygen level is 200 ml per liter. Then here, you know, the oxygen used, the here 200 ml of the oxygen is absorbed per minute. तो ये फिगर हमें कैसे मिला? तो हमने ऑक्सीजन मीटर से we have calculated कि how much oxygen is there in the atmosphere and how much oxygen is absorbed by the lung. Okay, so we got these values. Okay, and simply keep these values in this equation. Okay, so here cardiac output is equal to oxygen absorbed per minute by the lungs. Okay, it is in ml per minute divided by arteriovenous difference, that is ml per liter. Okay, so how much oxygen is absorbed by the lung? In previous slide we discussed that is a 200 ml oxygen is absorbed by lung per minute. Okay, and what is the ev difference? Ev difference, that is a 200 minus 160, that is a 40 ml per liter. Simply keep these values in this formula, in this equation, and you calculate. So here from this data we can calculate that our cardiac output is 5 liters per minute, and that is called the oxygen Fick's principle. In case students there is a short note on oxygen Fick's principle, then you draw this diagram and explain in this way. You have to explain in this way. Okay, so it's very simple calculation, and if you have any difficulty, any doubt regarding this oxygen Fick's principle, then you can ask me, you can react with me. Okay, so this is the main. In addition to that, you should know some other indirect method. Just keep in mind, we are not going in detail, but you should know the list of other methods, other indirect methods. पहला indirect method तो हमने detail में discuss किया है, that is oxygen Fick's principle. In addition to that, some other indirect methods are there. Indicator dye dilution method, then thermodilution method technique, then esophageal Doppler transducer technique, then Doppler echocardiography method, then ballistocardiographic method. So these are the some indirect method you just keep in mind. So students, this is all about the cardiac output, and we discuss in detail. If you have any problem, any difficulties, you can react through the WhatsApp, or you can even directly call also if you have any query. Okay, this is the end of this lovely lecture. Bye bye.